Welcome to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, SK, and we are back again with another episode. Our platform is dedicated to highlighting the vital role of small and medium sized enterprises in our economy, emphasizing why they are crucial and the importance of supporting local businesses. Today, we are delving into the world of business transformation, the critical role of education in organizational change, and engaging employees in transformation initiatives. We have the pleasure of hosting Ken Cowman, a business transformation professional with over 30 years of C-level experience, an educator, and a senior management consultant. Ken has a vast reservoir of knowledge capital, having completed over 300 clients projects across 7 countries, and he's here to share his wisdom with us. Ken is also the driving force behind Emercomm, a management consulting firm that specializes in facilitating comprehensive business transformation initiatives. Good afternoon, Ken, and welcome to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. How are you today?
I'm fine, and thank you for the invitation.
It's a pleasure to host you today. Ken, your extensive journey in business transformation and management consulting, coupled with your passion for education and employee engagement, is incredibly inspiring. As we embark on today's journey with Ken Cowman, exploring the transformative world of business and the pivotal role of education in organizational change, let's pause for a moment. Consider the landscape of your own business or the venture you dream of launching. Let Ken's experiences inspire you to consider what transformation looks like for your business and how education at every level can be the catalyst for impactful change. Today, we are eager to dive into your experiences, the strategies you have employed, and the lessons you have learned along the way. What motivated you to start Emercomm Business Consultants Inc.?
Truthfully, I think it's a natural thing for me. I'm of Scottish descent. So as a Scot, I don't like spending money stupidly. And I also have a real aversion to bad quality, bad service products and that sort of stuff. So I think that's really where Emercomm came. And I wanted to be able to provide services to small to medium businesses at a cost that they could afford. So to give you an example, Emercomm has not had a physical office for over 10 years. Way before COVID, we were without an office. Everybody works from home offices, remotely, or with our clients on site. So if you think about the cost savings there, that means that from a total profitability standpoint on our part, we don't have to charge as much to the small to medium businesses. It's more affordable, and that's really why I started Emercomm. So my background is in business management and computer sciences as education, but I spent 11 years in materials and production management. So you focus on quality, you focus on reducing cost. You read good, cycle times, fast, that sort of stuff. So that was basically my first 11 years. Fast forward to 1983, I'm recruited into a consulting firm. Great. Fast forward to 2002, and I started to realize with the new technologies for process reengineering that implementing ERP systems or enterprise solutions is great, and technology is fine, but it's really people, it's the processes. You've got to get those processes correctly. So that's really why Emercomm came to be. Is I decided that along with a few friends of mine I talked to, and they said, yeah, great idea, so let's do it. And Emercomm came to be in August of 2010.
Okay. It's good to hear. Ken, how has this transition influenced your approach to consulting and leadership within Emercomm?
What I've learned is that you really have to be honest with people, because people make things happen.
Honesty is the best policy, right?
Absolutely. And basically it overcomes what I call the BS baffles brains, or BSBB situation. So I think first, you have to have that honesty. You have to be people-centric and look beyond it. I think secondly, I think as a person, that has allowed me to grow with a bunch of people who I trust, who trust me. And, once you realize that value, it really does hit home. And, we do some pretty interesting things.
Great to hear that. Can you, after listening to your journey, your decision to embark on this entrepreneurial journey, it really illustrated the boldest and the strategic vision required to succeed in the consulting industry. Now, let's discuss about the technology. The selection of technology plays a crucial role in business transformation, right? What is Spock and how does it apply to technology selection process for any business?
SPOC is an acronym for single point of contact. And it's a method that you use to ensure that the vendors that are going to be involved in the selection process and the people within your organization don't have undue influence on the qualitative and quantitative aspects of what you're trying to select. So, essentially, everybody buys in. Spock basically, when you implement it, says there's one point of contact for this project. Okay. Vendors have to come through that point of, they've got a question, their question's going to be shared with all vendors. So there's a complete openness of information flowing. If there's information that needs to be given, all vendors get it at the same time from the same contact. So the vendors buy into that because that, if they want to be part of that selection process, they've got to. But also on the customer side, on the organizational side, all the team members are mandated to follow it. And you set up a process so that any unauthorized contact has to be reported. Okay. So for both the vendors and the employees who are involved in this project, everybody knows that everything is going through this one central control point, and that really eliminates a lot of the influencing that goes on. And that's basically what Spock is. It makes things work properly.
Thank you so much for sharing this with us. And can you share how implementing this approach, Spock, has benefited your clients?
Let me contrast two projects. One where large client, one of our larger clients, it was definitely in place. The first time that a supplier crossed that line, information went out to all suppliers saying, one of you has crossed the line, and if they want to continue to be part of this, it's going to cost them financially. That project, which we were taking 6 business units and converging them into one computer system, and a full business transformation, incredibly successful. That happened once. Everybody got the email, end of discussion. They got down to 3 qualified vendors, eliminated one fairly quickly. They could have gone with either one of the final 2, and they would have been successful. It just came down to negotiation and who had the better team. Contrast that to another organization, same mandates, et cetera, but let's just say they weren't as rigorous at enforcing. They had a couple people in the organization who had, shall I say, some favorites from past history, and it went sideways. It was just bad, and the resulting implementation failed. It was not on time. It did not deliver the expected results. And at the end of the day, the executive vice president and the chief information officer of that company were terminated because it was one of those two people who was doing the influence. You're talking about an entirely scrapped project that had to be restarted. So that's Spock makes sure that everybody's on the same page. And because it also starts that business of where you get people buying into the honesty, the organizational change management. That's part of OCM as well, because you get those people on board with the fact that everybody's going to know everything throughout this thing. Okay, so you get people buying into this is going to work because everybody's going to know. There's no hidden agendas. There's no politics. Everybody's going to know. And like I say, that first one, on time, on budget, great results, a lot of buy-in. Second one, scrapped, 2 executives lost their job.
Ken, thank you so much for sharing your experience. And also, what is your advice to our small business owners here in Canada, like the importance of Spock and why and how they can implement Spock in their own organization?
Well, I think the importance is fairly obvious. And if you don't do it in the business transformation, whether you're buying technology or even bringing in a consulting firm, I mean, we're not the only ones out there doing this stuff. So even bringing in a consulting firm, it's got to be the same questions to the same people, and you have to have qualitative and quantitative answering, and there's a whole thing there. So I think, to answer your question, if you don't do it, you're gonna regret it. Implementing it means that, it's an email to everybody, but implementing it internally, the team needs to know there's consequences.
Right.
Like if we find out later, like this one company that had the bad experience, we find out later that you were involved in this and you didn't report it. See ya.
Now, understanding Spock offers a new perspective on technology investment, as you explained, emphasizing strategic alignment and efficiency for any business. Now, like navigating the complexities of business transformation is crucial for staying competitive and innovative. Again, what are the typical results of a successful business transformation initiative?
There's going to be a few things. First of all, let's understand what the targets of a business transformation are. You want to reduce all your cycle times, business and operational. You want to reduce human effort. You want to reduce non-value added cost. You want to manage risk better. 3 components: people, process reengineering, technology. And I've got a little bit of a demo for you. Okay?
For sure.
So this is my business card. Okay? So now, if I give you my business card or you're at a marketplace or something like that, and you pick this up, what are you going to do? You're going to take it. You're going to spend time typing it in. That's your cost. You have the potential for transposition, risk, etc. So time, effort, cost, totally non-value added. Now, what we do, here's where technology and process alignment comes. So on the back of my card is a QR code. You take this, you take out your iPad or your phone or whatever, and you take a picture. Boom. You've got everything plus more that was on this card, plus more. Time, faster. Effort, per click. Cost, reduction.
Right.
Risk, no transposition errors.
Right.
That is business transformation 101.
Right. It saves time for everyone, right? And you get all the accurate information transferred to your phone.
Yeah. Well, think about it this way.
Right.
People should think, not do.
Right.
Okay? So people, when you have technology that will do stuff for you faster and without a lot of typing, which is human effort, by the way,
Right.
then, guess what? Use it.
Use it, yeah. Simple and easy. Just use it, right?
Yeah. But think about every process that you go through during the day.
Right.
Getting here for this interview or this conversation, you executed a backward scheduling process. Okay. We do it automatically.
Right.
We don't think of it that way, but that's what it is. Okay. You execute processes in driving. Everything you do,
Right.
almost everything you do, is a process.
Yes.
Okay. And when you're at work, okay, the whole idea of SME, the whole idea of being more competitive, okay, is reduce time, effort, cost. And by the way, when people do and they don't have to, when they can think and not do this stuff and the other stuff, mundane tasks, they're happier people. And studies have suggested that you'll get anywhere between 10 and 15% more productivity simply by eliminating mundane mundane processes and things like that.
Yeah, that's a very good example. Thank you for sharing this with us. And Ken, how do you measure these results, and what impact do they have on organizations' competitive edge?
So there's two types of measurements, quantitative and qualitative. So from a quantitative standpoint, you're looking at things like, did I reduce the cost of overhead? Have I increased EBITDA? Am I faster at getting a quote out the door? Am I faster at delivery? So there's all sorts of things that we can measure in numbers, and we can say, okay, this is what we're doing now. This is what we've been able to do, and what's the next target? How can we improve that? Then there's the qualitative, which is a little bit harder to put into numbers, but we can in a sense. How do your employees feel about working with you? How do your customers feel about the service they get? How do your suppliers feel? How do your employees' families feel about the employee working with you? I mean, there's a lot of different factors that are qualitative, but when you're looking at your organizational change management plan, you start to quantify that to an extent. We quite often will do completely anonymously for a client. We will do a organizational check, okay, and we will look at how people are feeling. And there's a series of questions, and depending upon the organization. So that's basically it. Is you look at things like employee turnover rates. There's one that, okay, well, my employee turnover rate is too high compared to industry standards. Why? Well, that's a qualitative situation. But you need to get to the root, which means that you need to find a way to quantify that so you can measure the improvement.
Right. As you rightly said, you have to go to the root. Like, that's very, very important. Halfway through our conversation with Ken, we have uncovered the essence of building long-term successful client relationship and the strategic importance of embracing diversity and inclusion in our practices. Remember, the strength of a business lies not just in its products or services, but in the depth of its relationship and the inclusivity of its culture. Now, let's discuss about the role of education in transformation. Education is foundational to ensuring realistic project expectations and engagement. Can you elaborate on the importance of education from the C-level downwards in facilitating successful business transformation?
The C level of the organization knows their business. They know where they're good. They have suspicions as to where the pain points are. Some of them are fairly obvious. They know their business. They typically have short-term goals, and they'll probably have a strategic plan. What they haven't done, likely, is do or manage a business transformation project an ERP selection, whatever. We, on the other hand, this is what we do. We manage these projects. If you look at the 5 senior people in our organization, we have about 150 years of management experience in various verticals. So when you take that, we can come in, we do the education. So we need to understand their business. So the education with the senior management is us teaching them about business transformation and specifically their roles, their leadership roles in this project. In that conversation, we learn about the short term, long term, etc. So we learn their business more intuitively, if you want, with that information coming back to us. And at the end of that, what we've got now is the very concrete basis for reporting, management, setting expectations, setting the OCM up, and that sort of thing. Next level down is where you're going to, and that's, by the way, that executive level, it's not very many hours of work. It is not what you call, like, it's not going to be weeks and weeks and weeks. Although there are some consultants who probably will try and elongate it that long. Typically a couple of days and we're done. The next level down is the project team. That project team is going to need a lot of knowledge transfer. Okay. They need to understand the concepts. They need to understand Spock. They need to understand technology's role. They need to understand organizational change management. They need to understand process reengineering and setting targets. What's an R chart? That sort of stuff. So there's a lot of detailed and conceptual knowledge that has to be given to the team that's actually going to execute the business transformation project. Then the third level is going to be really based on the organizational change management plan itself. So that next level is very specific to job functions. They need to understand cross-functional impact, but this is how your job could change. And you do a lot of that through the process reengineering. You teach them the concepts, and through the process reengineering, you just start to see these eyes going, oh my goodness, I could do it that way. Wow, like there's 3 hours of my week gone, just like that. So that's really where you get it is the 3 levels. Strategic, C-level, they have to be leaders.
Right.
And then the team, they need to pull it all together and be that conduit of information. And then the people who are actually going to do the work and have their processes changed on a day-to-day basis, they need certain pieces of information as well.
Yeah, that's a very important point for any small business owner, especially for our listeners, to take into consideration, like the points I've discussed, re-engineering. It will help them a lot in moving forward and growing their business. Now, Ken, how does overcoming BSBB issue enhance project outcomes?
Well, have you ever noticed that people have this little antenna that goes up when they think that you're giving them a bunch of BS? Yeah. You start doing that, especially at the leadership level.
Right.
And people will abandon, they'll say, yeah, and then they'll just go do their thing. So when you're looking at BSBB, I can't stress enough how important honesty. Obviously there's certain secrets, things that you can't say,
Right.
but you have to be as honest as possible at every step of the way. And that's got to be reflected in the organizational change management plan. As soon as people get that, their antennas go up and they think that they're being taken down the path, you lose them. And people make business transformation work. Technology and process reengineering is all they're all components, but at the end of the day, you better know your people and you better be honest with them.
Right, right. Can your focus on education underscores its significance in fostering a culture of clarity, collaboration, and commitment to transformation goals. Now let's discuss about, as you said in our last discussion, employee engagement is very, very important. Engaging employees is crucial for momentum and success of transformation projects, right? Ken, what methods have proven effective in securing employee engagement in business transformation initiatives?
Education, obviously, one. Having clear leadership. On the leadership side, I'll give you an example of a situation that could have gone really bad. So leadership sometimes means you have to take tough decisions. In this particular situation, we had a lot of momentum going, but there was one person in the organization who was in a fairly, what I would call a bottleneck position. And essentially what happened was this guy would say, yeah. Then he'd go off and do his own thing. And because of where he was in the organization, that was really slowing things down. You know, people wanted to get things done. We'd done a lot of education. We'd done a lot of OCM. We wanted, to
implement, right?
Yeah. But this guy's in the way. He'd been with the company for over 20 years.
Oh.
Okay. And one day I simply went into the president's office and I said, well, here's the situation. These three people are no longer engaged in this process. They can't do anything. They're frustrated.
They're blocking the way, right?
Yeah. Well, basically, these three people were being blocked by this one individual in terms of getting stuff done. And they were frustrated. And these are highly educated people.
Right.
So I said, you got to make a decision. You've got to move him out of the way.
Right.
And the president said, well, I got nowhere to put him. I said, the street's always an option. There's a process we can go through. We need to go through that process. And so he said, well, yeah, maybe he'll listen. Maybe he'll listen. So we went through a process of over a matter of 3 months.
Okay.
To try and get this guy in line with the project. Meanwhile, everybody and their brothers frustrated. It's just building and building. You could almost sense it walking in. So comes down at the end of the 90 days and I went into the president and I said, well, here's where we are. And I had all my facts and I said, you have to make a decision. I don't care if you promote him to janitor first class, but you got to get him out of that supervisory position he's in. Let me think on it. So on a Saturday, I get a phone call and it's, I've made the decision. Can you come in and be in the office at 8:00 Monday morning? And I said, well, I don't need to be there to promote him to janitor first class. He said, no, he said, we got to do something. Well, honestly, I was there. He saw me in the boardroom and it was like, oh my goodness. He got a really good severance and a whole bunch of but he had to go.
Right.
At about 7 or 8 minutes after 8:00, I'm walking this now former employee out the front door. 2 things. You could have heard a pin drop.
Right. Silence.
Everybody's going like. Secondly, everybody now understood just how important this was to the business.
Right.
And it was just full steam ahead.
Right.
Everything went, And they did very, very well after that. They did very well. And I have to say that the president of that company took care of the former employee. He had been an employee for over 20 years. He'd done really good work. He just couldn't see how he just couldn't move
Adapt,
in the
right?
right direction and adapt.
Yeah. As you rightly said, like change is very, very important. And sometimes as a business owners, we want to change the people who don't want to change. Right?
Yeah.
That's the reality. Your insights can into employee engagement illuminates the path to creating more cohesive, motivated, and productive teams during periods of significant change. And that the example that you gave was a very good example for everyone to learn things from out of it. Before we bring this conversation to an end, I would like to ask one more question that I believe will resonate with your audience, the small business owners. Given your vast experience, Ken, and the successes you have navigated through Emercomm, what piece of advice would you offer to our listeners who are either embarking on their own entrepreneurial journey or in the midst of steering their business through transformation?
I think for me, everybody starts their entrepreneurial journey for their own reasons. For me, I did a lot of consulting for many years using technology implementation to drive change. In 2002, I got introduced to this process modeling and automation technology, and that started the change in my head that, yeah, I could manage these projects better, but I was driving them from the technology standpoint. I got into this technology and I thought, from process reengineering, I can drive the educational requirements, the knowledge capital requirements for the people doing those roles and within those process stages and tasks and what have you. And we can drive improvement in cycle times, whether they're operational, process, or business, it doesn't matter. So for me, again, my thing is all about reducing non-value add cost, add quality, be competitive. Okay. And I am Canadian. So working with Canadian small businesses to make them more profitable and more competitive and successful, I'm already in there. No problem. I think the one thing I can say to small business owners is the most important asset you have are your people. Okay. Understand what they care about. Okay. Money's not going to keep somebody on board very long if they're unhappy with your leadership. Okay. So I would say from that standpoint, get your people on board, listen to them, then look at your processes. Okay. You can measure improvement. There's this technology, for instance, that we use. I can tell you how long it's taking you to do things now. And we can identify one of my backgrounds when I was in materials and production management. I took industrial engineering. Okay. So the whole idea of identifying bottlenecks, yeah. And business processes are just the same as operational processes. You have setup, you have the execution, and you have teardown. Right. And you have the same thing in your office. So I think people, get them on board, have a plan for leadership, understand, become educated as to what it is that you're trying to plan and what you're trying to undertake. And then I would say that if you're going to be really successful, eliminate BSBB, implement Spock on any acquisition you're going to undertake, and at the end of the day, celebrate success. Because, again, nobody, especially Scots, we love to party. So, but I don't think we're alone there.
Everybody loves party.
Everybody loves
Yeah.
sport. And when you have milestones
Mhm.
that are, this is, we want to reach this target on getting a quote out. Okay, it doesn't have to be a big, you know, take everybody out to
Right.
Maple Leaf game type
Right.
of thing. It can be simply bringing in Timbits for everybody.
Right. Small things,
Small things, but things like I was working with a client a number of years ago,
Hmm.
and they had 6 groups
Okay.
on that we were doing this. In the lunchroom, they put up a big board,
Mhm.
and the board basically had all of the targets
Okay.
for the groups.
Okay.
And every week it showed progress.
Okay.
Well, you want a competition?
Mhm.
Oh my goodness. It was like, everybody can see how we're doing.
Right.
It's, so all of a sudden it was this big competition to get there.
Yeah.
Certain milestones,
Mhm.
people got rewarded.
Correct.
They could either get a check,
Mhm.
have an extra day of vacation,
Correct.
okay, or have, for the guys, flowers sent to their wives,
Mhm.
okay, and for the gals, they could choose whatever they wanted to send to their guys. But it was like that was the big joke.
Yeah.
Like it was lighthearted. It wasn't overly serious. So
Mhm.
it went so well. But the team that was going to hit their targets,
Mhm.
100% targets first,
Right.
they were getting they were going to go to a Blue Jays game
Mhm.
before the Blue Jays, and in the box, the owner's box. And oh, by the way, before the Jays game, everybody was able to go for dinner.
Mm.
So there was dinner at the Jays game in the private box, the whole kit and caboodle. And it was just a big celebration. So there was that competitive thing. And I mean, the teams kind of just worked on each other and what have you. But there was those little things and the teamwork that came out of
Right.
that project was unbelievable. Now, second, third, fourth, and fifth, like the people who didn't make the top team, they all had extra benefits too, because nobody was under 90%. Okay, like everybody was
Everyone
like,
trying, and
yeah,
they were in different positions.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And if they had a question, they had Spock.
Right.
They had a single point of contact
Contact.
to go to.
Mhm.
Okay, to get clarification on something. We implemented Kaizen, which is a feedback loop
Right.
with them. Now that's a manufacturing term,
Right.
but you can do that as a feedback loop within a project as
Correct.
well.
Yeah.
And so that was, extremely well done. That organization, well, they were acquired by a bigger organization a while ago. But it was just one of those things where, you know, that teamwork, everybody looking out for each other. It was a friendly competition, but everybody was helping each other. And that was just an outstanding organization.
No, thank you, Ken, so much for sharing such great examples and your advice for our listeners, the small business owners. As we prepare to conclude our insightful session with Ken, consider the journey we have taken today. From understanding the foundations of business transformation to recognizing the importance of financial resilience and scalability. Ken's experience reminds us that in the ever evolving landscape of business, our ability to adapt and innovate is what defines our success. It's been an absolute pleasure having you share your knowledge and experiences on the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast today. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for the invitation. It's been an absolute pleasure. And, I am Canadian, and I would just love to see, not even just Canadian, small businesses. We take risks, small business owners take risks. And if we can help them overcome some of those risks and become more competitive. Yeah, I like that. I like the idea of people being as successful as I've been fortunate to be over the years. And let's go.
Yeah, for sure. And we will be adding your contact details in the podcast description. So if anyone is interested in getting connected with you or with your team, they will get connected.
Well, thank you. Or else I could just do that again.
Thank you so much once again.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
The principles of strategic planning, employee engagement, and the critical role of education in business transformation Ken highlighted today are the key takeaways for anyone looking to make a lasting impact in their industry. We also extend our heartfelt thanks to our partners, RBC, UPS, Zero, and our exclusive email partner, Constant Contact, for their unwavering support for the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe to Canadian SME Small Business Magazine at canadiansme.ca for more stories, strategies, and the insights designed to help you navigate your entrepreneurial journey.